or sit back.
So let me share my screen again.
Got
And
it.
here we go. All right. So, like I said, this time of year, we're still a little bit light on WordPress news and events. Sorry, this one's a little bit late, but not too late for everybody. So, WP Engine has a virtual conference called Decode. It actually started today, but I believe you can still get in through the event link. I'll put the link into the chat, or Peter, if you have it handy, if you don't mind throwing it in the chat.
I'll
Uh,
grab it.
and again, I'll admit this is my first year of at least signing up and attending the sessions, so I don't have real deep background on how long this has been going on for. But again, it's another one of these free virtual conferences. I believe if you can't watch the sessions live, you can certainly watch them afterwards. I'm not sure how long they'll be available to watch them afterwards, but again, this is something that just like if you're interested in coming to a session like ours tonight, certainly another good opportunity, and the price is right, free. So that one is happening now, at least for North America, is today. And then EMEA, I don't quite know what that is, but it's another opportunity in the 21st.
Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
There we go. Whew, thank you.
So what they did is it's a combination of live and pre-recorded, but they have pre-recorded things that they're showing at different times to hit kind of the globe, which is really nice. And then they have it's interactive places you can go and stuff. It's a really strong free conference. I like it a lot.
Yeah. So check that out. Hopefully we'll have the link in the chat. And then just another one for folks in the Northeast, just looking at WordCamps in our area, roughly. Buffalo's not that close, but yeah, if you're in the Northeast, WordCamp Buffalo is going to be coming up May 4th, and that one's in person as far as I can tell. I'm not sure if I didn't see anything talking about virtual. So if you're in the Buffalo area, if you've never attended a WordCamp before, I highly recommend it. Really great way to mingle and talk WordPress with other like-minded folks. So be on the lookout for that. Like I said, coming up May 4th. And tool and tip spotlight. Peter, I don't know if you got something for us.
Yeah, I do. I'll grab the screen in just a second.
Sure.
Uh, so I'm going to, with all the testing that I've been doing, and also just site development, and I've got a client that has a design. I'm working on both a content site and a dev site. A lot of times I'm switching back and forth between similar versions of the same site. Different instances of it. And the other thing is I'll often have a lot of things that are running plugins and things like that or filling up my admin bar that sometimes I just want to clean up. So I'm going to revisit something that a tool that continues to get better. We shared this when it was in its infancy, and now it's super popular, which is the admin and site enhancements plugin. I want to say I showed it when there was like 10 people who downloaded. Now it's in the tens of thousands. It's maybe 100, but I know it was really, really early on. And I'm going to show you how I use that, and very quickly how I also use profiles to tell the difference between things. So what I've got up at the top is kind of a demo site that I was working on, and if you notice, there's two beta sites that I'm looking at. Let me get to the demo. WP admin. Thought I had that open. Sorry about that. And you'll notice that I'm running two beta things. I put different icons at the top, and I've got a kind of a different color choice right now. For me, I can see color. So using the purple, using a black and a purple and a green kind of thing is one thing that I've been using. But with the admin and site enhancements, it's a sort of a Swiss Army knife of all kinds of tools that gives you control over admin on your admin side. So even if you're a DIYer, but if you log in as admin, you have a lot of things to look at. So I'm going to show you two things that I've changed. So the first thing is the color. You change the color under your profile. So under user, and if you go to your profile, you have options for changing your profile colors. This one is actually showing because I have a plugin here. Let me come over here, and this is another thing I used, which was user's profile. And these are the default colors. So like I might have one site where I'm using the blue, another site where I'm using, something else. So I can kind of tell the difference. The one reason this one looks a little bit different is there's actually a plugin that gives you even more control over colors. I didn't mean to show that one just yet, but that's kind of the color queue. But on the if you activate the admin site enhancements, which I'll do really quickly, I have it already loaded it. Most of us know in terms of the installed plugins. I'm going to activate this. And now what you'll see at the top, and I'll show you how I got it, because now this is activated, I've put something in the configuration where there's a view as drop down at the top right. Now, this isn't, some of the tools have that are out there. You can user switcher, very handy if you're managing something where you have other people sign in, you need to do it. There's a user switching a plugin that's really nice. But what's really nice about this one is you're still you, but you're viewing something as somebody else. So say you just wanted to, kind of clean up what you're looking at and say, I only want to view as what an editor would see, or even an author. And then all of the plugin add-ins kind of go away without you having to sign out and sign back in. So that is a really switch back to yourself here. That's a really handy thing for just kind of cleaning up, especially if you built a site and then you just want to go in and edit it and not see all the things that you don't, so that you don't need to see. So the admin enhancements puts a link under your tools menu choice in admin, and you've got all these different places that you can turn things on and off. So the first thing under admin interface is I did do one additional thing, which is I enabled the admin menu organizer. And when you do that, when you turn it on, what it does is it allows you to order it and actually do something called hide until toggled. So for example, I don't have sites with comments, so I just hide that. And then you can actually when you do show all, it'll put that in. So you can have a number of menu items hidden behind the scenes. The other thing that I was showing you was under utilities is this view admin as role. You just turn that on. It gives you one little warning, which is it gives you a link that says if you want to just in case something happens, this will basically reset it. If if you left it, you logged in and your admin page would load. I've never had that happen. So those two things, being able to collapse, hide things until you just say show all, and or change what you're viewing as, is a really nice way to just kind of clean things up really quickly and say, I'm just editing right now. I only want to see pages, posts, in the media library. This is a great quick way to do that.
Interesting. Yeah, I remember you showing this one before, but yeah, it seems like even the UI looks a little bit cleaner now, I think, than.
Oh yeah, there's so many things, so many plugins that it can replace.
Yeah.
It even has things like email, SMTP,
yeah, interesting.
duplicate pages, and yeah, you could take all your plugins, just replace them with this one, and just turn things on and off as you need them.
As long as it doesn't turn into Jetpack.
You get no. Okay.
Very cool. Awesome. Thanks, Peter.
I'll stop. There we go.
Throw a link to that into the chat as well, too, if you haven't. That's great. All right, so let's jump into, again, a topic everyone's interested in tonight. And again, as I mentioned earlier, too, if you go to hartfordwp.com, that's where you'll find tonight's presentation, as well as all of our previous ones going back almost a year. We almost at a year now, I think. Just look real quick. Yeah, over a year. Great. So this was nice. Again, all kudos to Peter for putting this together. Great way to share all of our slides, so you don't have to sign into Facebook or whatever. So, all right, tonight's topic: what's new in WordPress 6.5? So again, right around the corner, we gave a little preview, high-level preview, I think last month, and just kind of our news. But really tonight we're hoping to do a pretty deep dive, not into every single feature, but hopefully enough that you come away with more comfort of understanding what's in this release, because there is a lot of good stuff in there. So again, real quick, we'll do our quick introductions, Peter, myself. Peter's going to cover, we've kind of been doing this for the last few WordPress releases. Peter will cover more of the changes in the block editor / block editor user experience, and anything kind of related to designs and the block with blocks. And then I'm covering site editor improvements and some of the back end stuff, I'd say, which is probably laying a foundation, I think, for some really interesting things coming up in future WordPress releases. And then we'll do wrap up. So we're going to try to keep it to around an hour for all these different pieces. So who are we? I'll start with myself. I'm Ray. I'm one of the co-organizers of Hartford WordPress. Been in IT for 25 plus years. Previous career as a developer slash software architect for some big companies. Been using WordPress for over 7 years. Self-employed website designer, like CT Web Geek. I live in Newington, Connecticut, married, no kids. And like I said, I am a geek. Peter.
I'm Peter Ingersoll. I live in South Windsor, Connecticut, across the river from Ray. I've been working on the web pretty much since the beginning, mostly for marketing communications. Kind of always been that go-to tech guy. I've been over 10 years using WordPress. I'm self-employed. I'm married with two kids, two very adult children at this point. And I am a WordPress admin and DIY advocate, self-proclaimed.
And he's everywhere, as we were talking earlier. Peter's everywhere too. All right, so I'll stop sharing because you want to pick it up from here, Peter. You got the first part. Some of the
Yeah,
stuff.
I'll do that.
And like I mentioned too, if people have questions as Peter's given his presentation about anything, please put them in the chat window. I'll bring them up to his attention. And then, like I said, at the end of this, we'll open it up for open up everyone's microphones and stuff. But if you have questions, don't forget them, put them in the chat. All right, go ahead, Peter.
Very good. So it's interesting. Our side presentation, something isn't working right now, JavaScript. So something in one of the updates of either a plugin or all broke something. So just it's funny how you just kind of have to troubleshoot. Now, of course, I was using a custom script, so now I have to go see if there's anything in that script specifically.
Before I forget, site speed was much better using it today. So whatever you
Okay,
fixed,
yeah, I
awesome.
turned a number of, you know what? That's a good point. I turned a number of things off to make the site work better on the back end. I probably turned off the thing that.
Sorry.
That's what it is. It's a self-inflicted pain. So I'm just going to scroll through, which we often do anyway. Okay, so we're talking about what's new in. Now, what I wanted to quickly say, and there's so many resources for this, but sometimes people say, well, how do you find out what you know, and what do we discover? How do you discover what's in the new releases and all? And obviously it's us doing this for a living and being interested in and wanting to teach other people, but the resources are wordpress.org, of course, and make wordpress.org is a section where all the development happens, and that can go deep and deep into there, contribute if you wanted to. We could do a whole thing just on that. You test the beta using the WordPress beta tester plugin. It's a plugin that you pull right off the repository, and it allows you to, you wouldn't want to do this on a live site, but if you did this using local, or I say so, experiment local. The playground, which is the instant playground.wordpress.net, which is a handy for doing some really quick testing. A lot of times I read something, go, let me see it work. So I kind of fly off into playground, and you can set it, you can launch a website instantly in your browser, pick what version you want to use. So if 6.5, we're release candidate 3, RC3 just came out a few hours ago. I also have test sites, which is what I'm going to be showing a lot of things here today. I didn't include, InstaWP is another place. So there's a lot of places we talk about this in terms of experimentation. Learn WordPress online workshops meetup is a great place where they have lots of WordPress things, and there'll be things in there talking about new releases and all. The author of this document is on the call, the WordPress 6.5 source of truth, which gets into a tremendous level of detail, and it's really kind of handy. It's a resource through the development process, and then at a certain point, Ann McCarthy does make this public. So this is recently public, so you can really kind of drill down into such a level with little demos and things like that. So this is clearly a source of truth, is a source of a lot of the information that I pulled from. Then there's blogs. Gutenberg Times is a great one for staying on top of things. The favorite YouTube channels, the WordPress channel Anne's channel, Jamie Marsland's channel, which I mentioned a lot. So we get all that information through these.
And real quick, I totally forgot to put on the beginning slide. March 26th is
Oh,
the
yeah, we
release
forgot
date.
the release date. So when does this come? March 26th.
Yes.
Big letters.
Sorry. Good.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're right. The candidate, so the way the release is, so we're release candidate 3. So people all over the world are going in there and testing it. You can do it right now, and if you, there's a whole process of going through. If you find an issue with experimentation going through and all that, you can actually report that in and contribute through the process of doing the testing and saying, "Hey, I found an issue." Again, we can talk a little bit more about that later. In terms of what 6.5 is bringing, the first thing I want to talk about is the overall quality of life improvements. This happens with every release. Some things are just the list goes into the hundreds and probably more than that in terms of all the little things that get fixed, tweaked, adjusted. The stuff we're showing is just some of the things, but there's all kinds of things below the surface, and we'll talk about things that'll optimize the performance, make the user experience better, set the stage for forward development, all kinds of things. So that's a constant part of the new releases. So in terms of what those quality of life improvements are, the specific things that are I like to call quality of life. There's too many to list, but the ones we'll talk about too: drag and drop improvements. That just anything in that user experience, any improvements there are great. And drag and drop is a way a lot of us use the site. Not everybody. We always have to pay attention to accessibility, keyboard users, and all. And accessibility is another area that's been really paid attention to, which is really, really important. The improved performance in the editor. Things are actually happening milliseconds faster and keyboard response, but it really, you can tell when the interface becomes snappier and better. Improvements to the preference panel, which is how you and I can show that, where you said, and a lot of people don't think to go over the preference panel, but it really can improve the way you interact with WordPress. Scrolling top toolbar on smaller screens, again, little things that like I don't normally wouldn't encounter, but there's people on smaller screens where now that top toolbar would, it goes left to right scroll. So it just makes that operation easier for those who are using smaller screens. Little things like I wrote a script, I shared it on a little code. I didn't write it, ChatGPT, but a way to see the patterns link under appearance. You don't need that now because it's now something that is in classic themes, as long as the theme author is basically turning that on and all. Later on, we'll get into some of those things in terms of specific themes between the classic themes and the block themes. So if you have a classic theme, a theme that uses the customizer, if you wanted to manage patterns, you couldn't see it right now. It's now dropped, coming back to the menu. And even little things like setting the site icon in general settings now, instead of something you have to do in a theme or in a different place in a block theme where you're going to the site editor. So all of those are different improvements. And we'll quickly demo some of these things as we after kind of talk through them. So the drag and drop improvements, the way we interact with WordPress, even little things like drag and drop to the beginning or end of content. So if you're in a page and a post and you want to drag something to the top or to the bottom, you couldn't do it. You can't do it in 6.4. Now you can. It's a simple thing. You'd have to go and then now I got to, but now you can go above the top item with when you drag a piece of content up at the top. And that's really good for those of us who might write by, just kind of getting all the content there and then arranging it. Now I want to put something at the top or at the bottom. Improve the drag and drop between adjacent groups or cover blocks. This is things like you could take an image and put an image next to it and automatically starts creating a gallery for you. Pretty neat. A neat little thing, saves a couple of steps, those little tweaks that are happening. Indicate when a drag and drop is allowed or not. You get a little indicator that says, oh, you can't drop that here. Again, just improves the process. So I got these little words, but that's the creating rows and this might be something we can talk, because I saw that. Maybe I'm not 100% sure what that means compared to creating rows and galleries by moving images next to each other. But I'll show you what that is when we demo it. So the drag and drop improvements to the list view. We'll talk about list view improvements. So drag, there's a drag cursor shown for draggable blocks. So when you have a block that you can drag, your little cursor is going to tell you what can be dragged and where it can be dropped off. Another thing that's nice is instead of grabbing something and as you drag it in the list view and you see the little blue line, you actually see that block title move with where you're going to drop it. So it makes it that much more a strong indicator of what am I putting where, which really helps. If you try to drag into a collapsed block like a group block, it'll open that up and allow you to drag inside it. The right click, click three dots or keyboard shortcuts for block options. Right click is great, especially because since I've been working in beta, now I go back to my other sites, I go to right click it, and then it says, oh, you want to open this in another window? And I'm, no, I want my block options. So that's a neat little thing to start using. And then now you can rename any block for clarity, which is very handy. I can't even remember. I think it was group blocks and something else that you could rename in the list view, but now you can rename any blocks. So let's take a look at some of those things. Let me call up this page here. All righty. And you can see the block options screen test, right?
Yep.
Good. Although here's another maybe JavaScript thing. I normally can get to the admin menu by going to the top, and now I'm not able to do that. So let me close this. I'm going to close this. Okay, and I'm going to put the presentation over here so I can see what I was going to show you. So let's talk about first real quick under settings general. This is where we have, where is it?
It's right above the site icon right there.
There you go, the site icon. So to change the site icon, you can grab an image, put it in, and then that's the site icon here that shows at the top, and also depending on your theme, or it might show in the title. But having it just there as part of your general settings, it's a great little benefit for that. Now I'm just pulling my list over here. Okay, so let's go into, I'm going to go into a demo post here. And I'll just go to this one. Actually, I'm going to open another one too that has a little bit more. You can see as we're testing, we kind of keep opening up a lot of things. So this is a block test that has different images. This is like, say you're building a big content. This is my chat GPT document that I'm going to use only because it's attached to some of the images that I have. But here's the list view. So I set under my preferences, and right now I'll go show you. I mentioned preferences really quickly. Typically, I'll come over here, the dots, the three dots at the top right under preferences. Here's one thing now that's changed, which is breaking the preferences into these more functional, easy to find areas. So if you want to turn on what blocks that you're using, some accessibility things, and these will expand. So it gives you kind of more of those opportunities to turn things on and off. Now I happen to like where I say always open list view when I go to a page. I just automatically do it. That's an option here where you just turn that on. So that's the list view. That was the change to your preferences screen. So say I wanted to move enriching sets to here. See, if you notice, instead of the blue line, I can see the enchantment of sunsets moving into the place that it's where you're going to drop it. So that's the kind of the drag and drop there. The renaming is if I were to come to this paragraph, and this paragraph is on the ocean, wonderfully, I can right click it now. You can also click the three dots to open up your options. But if I right click it and go to rename, now I can just call this, ocean text. So this gives, I did I was highlighted over here when I did that. Let me see. Let's make sure that it works, or else we're reporting a bug. There we go. Okay. So now what this gives you the opportunity to do is, again, really organize your content by naming things in your list view. When I wanted to show you the drag and drop in the images, this is an example of if I had an image here. Let me go to the media library and grab this image. I'm going to select that. Now, say I want to add another image, and again, you can do this any number of ways. Let's just say I go to blocks, to the block inserter. I don't typically do it this way, but I know a lot of people do. So if I go to image, and then I look in my media library, I go to images, and I want to grab, say, the Hartford skyline. If I drag it next to, and there's a little blue line, kind of hard to see, but right next to it, that now just created a gallery for me, just in the drag and drop. If we go back to the list view, we can see that there was a gallery automatically created. Although there it is. I was on the wrong area. A gallery created with the two images that I just dragged over. So that's just drag and dropping to create a gallery.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just noticing too, for the gallery, now there's the little, is that new? The little three thumbnails of the different images in the gallery? I know
Yes.
images always had the single thumbnail
Yeah.
thing that says three.
Yeah. So it's giving you an idea what's in it. I haven't seen, let's go. I think I have one up here with more, and let's see if they show.
That's cool. I mean, I like that.
Oh, but that one's not showing it, isn't it?
When you collapsed it?
Now it's gone. Yeah. So let's collapse it and see. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
It's giving you a visual clue that you
Yeah.
have multiple images in that block. So it's just showing you 2, 3. So again, all of these.
Wait, Ann says it's part of 6.4. Okay.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. And those quality of life improvements kind of keep sneaking in, and all of a sudden we go, oh, look at that, just like you're saying. So now we go, okay, I have a visual cool down of the words, but I can see there's at least 3 images in this block, which is pretty handy.
Can you show
Yeah.
sorry, I'm driving your demo thing.
No, please.
Can you show the thing you talked about with dragging something from the bottom up to, like you said, to position it higher?
Yeah. So what you couldn't do before is you couldn't say I wanted this image block at the top,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to drag it from here. If you go to 6.4, you can go up to here, and that's all you can go. Now you can go to the top block.
Okay.
It's a simple thing. You couldn't do it before. It used to be like you drop it below, and then you'd kind of reposition
You'd
them
have to move them, yeah, you'd have to do the swap. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. Control Z to undo. So your control copy, control paste, control Z, control X all work, always have, or have for quite a long time. What other ones do we want to show in here? Let's see. Drag and drop. So if I have, let's try this. So here's an image, and I say I want to take this image and I want to drag it in. Well, let me do it this way. That's collapsed. And if I take this image and I drop it here, I thought that there it does open up. I had to hold it over it, so I'm not sure what the response time is on there. But that's opening up a collapsed block. If you say, oh, I want to put something in a group, I want to put something in a gallery, that type of thing. So that's sort of, again, the drag and drop piece here. Let me see if there's other list view. I'm just looking at this list here. Any others that anyone wants to see?
I don't see anything in the.
Okay.
I see in the chat yet, but I'm sure as you do more stuff, we'll probably bring up some.
Yeah, exactly. And again, this is playing with it. This is talk about renaming the drag and drop, that type of perfect.
You also unintentionally kind of showed it too, and I was going to show this in the site editor, just the responsiveness. It feels like that feels snappier to me now. Like before, it used to be like it always felt like it's a little bit off from where you want things to drop, and now it just feels like it's a lot smoother.
I agree. I definitely agree. All righty, so let's go back to here. I'll keep going to, all right, so new style options, drop shadows, available in group column, buttons and image blocks. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. I tried it in a group block and I didn't see it, but I'm not sure if that's changed. And again, there's certain things that we started creating a week or two ago for this presentation that we had to change because there's something called when WordPress is being developed, if there's a feature that they say it's not ready for this release, it gets punted. And Ray can talk about what he was working on that got punted. So maybe maybe I'm not seeing it. Maybe it's there's something that has to be turned on. I know in all of these cases, things have to be turned on in the theme, and we'll talk about that later. But this idea of sometimes you'll see something, so why isn't it there? It's because the theme author may not have enabled it, or it may not be able to work within a classic theme as of yet. The drop shadows is an option found in you go to style, border and shadow, and enable drop shadow. I'll show you that. And then there right now you have a certain fixed number of choices. You pick that choice. You can't really set the parameters for those choices yet. I'm sure that's something that might come. For some of us who are using like block packages that get into have a level of detail, you might say, "Oh, how come I can't change how far away it is?" It's not there yet. And it's still actually very effective. Cover block changes. So the overlay color and opacity. So if you put an image in a you have an image in a cover block, there'll be an overlay color that gets selected by the dominant colors. I'm not sure the math behind it, but you can edit the color, the overlay color and opacity of a cover block. Probably the more important thing is setting a fixed aspect ratio. So setting something to a 16:9 aspect ratio, a 4:3, and then on a mobile device having that retain that aspect ratio as opposed to right now, something kind of going tall but thin, so it retains the aspect ratio. The group block changes. Now you can add a background image to a group block. Group block and cover block can be kind of similar, and sometimes there's like which one to use for what. And I'm not sure I have the best answer for that. Sometimes I go, oh, there's a feature that's in the other one that I need. Positioning specifically in an area might be better in a cover block than a group block, for example. The group block is good when you're going to stack things, make things next to each other. You have a lot of controls that way. But now you can add a background image to the group block. Which is a neat function to be able to do that, and then you can the positioning and size options of those nice options say this is my focus area on that image, which is pretty handy. The gallery block and images, now there's a random order option for galleries. I like random order. I use that in a lot of things. I even like to have random images instead of slideshows, so that clients are saying there's a dynamic nature to the site. You load it, oh, that's a new picture, but instead of trying to do it in a slideshow, which there's pros and many cons to doing that. So using a random order is nice. The expand on click is now under the link button. And so again, trying to keep things where they feel more natural and saying, okay, this image is going to link to something. I want to link it into, we normally think of it as a light box, but it isn't quite, I wouldn't call it a light box in WordPress core at this point, but you can expand it. You say for each image what you want to do with it. That's under the click. Under the link button, I'll show you that. Long image captions can now scroll. Just if you have a long caption and you got this fixed space, you can scroll within it. And then that drop shadow works on images. So let's take a quick look at some of those things. So here's an image block. Let's go right to the, just highlight it and go right to the, here's the styles, and under styles, we've got borders and shadows. And this is something, again, as we're getting used to having more and more functionality built into the blocks, expanding and deciding what you want to see. So under border and shadows, expanding so you see shadow. You click that to now get your options. And then here are my options, which are, these different levels of fade, and also say I just wanted this nice light fade, if I wanted a dark fade, a dark. So these are design styles that are built into WordPress right now. And now that's just setting a drop shadow right there from the core block. The other thing I wanted to show is drop shadow. Cover block changes. So the cover block changes. Here's a cover block, and now having the overlay color. This color here is set initially when you drop that image in, set the image, background image for a cover block. This overlay color is set. Now you can change that. You can click on it and change it to maybe you want the black and all, but this is how you would control a lot of that, that aspect of the overlay color. Setting a fixed aspect ratio, that is under the general settings, not the style settings, where I believe, right? Huh, maybe it is under style. Again, it's not out yet, so I don't feel bad. Aspect ratio, there it is, under style. Sorry. And so now this is the kind of the same way you can do with images, for example. You could set to various aspect ratios. Say you wanted this tall, you wouldn't do that with this image. But then again, what's neat about this is, say I go wide, and let me preview this. Actually, this is one where it doesn't seem to always take in the preview. So now if I go to the inspector under Chrome, and then say, what does it look like on a phone, for example, that aspect ratio stays. So that's a nice way. If I didn't turn that, this would be it would be as tall as what it would be on a full page. It would just be thinner. So that's a kind of a nice way of having control over that image and how it shows on different devices. What else? I think, cover block change, group block changes. Add the background. So if we have here's a group block here. In the group block, I don't think there's much as a heading, paragraph. So in the group block, I can go to styles, and I can go to a background image. And it's not going to make a whole lot of sense, but now that's sitting there on the background image. And I can also, let's add some padding so you can actually see that. So now that group block has a background image, and you would control the text white. Now text would be paragraph text. The heading text is set within the heading, but see how you can, again, now we have so many more design elements that just keep sneaking in, and having a group block. Now you can put a background image, background colors, things like that is a nice design option. You need page builders less and less and less, believe me.
And also even like custom CSS to kind of, make up those minor things that are lacking. So that's nice to see that at least it's all there now.
Exactly. And then one last thing I want to now, if you talk about images, your galleries, you're also talking about images, because galleries are just collections of images. But this is the idea that under the link here, so where you can link to the image file, link to attachment file, or expand on click. This is your lightbox click. So if I update this, now that I've messed this page up a little bit and view it, that first image will now expand out. So, but that used to be over on the image and under a choice, and now it's just, hey, you're linking to an expanded image the file, a URL, whatever you might want to link to. Now, this one won't link because some of us are used to, if you have a gallery and you're kind of setting them all at the same time. Currently in WordPress, what you're doing is you're setting what each image does as a separate as a separate set of parameters. Oops.
Where was I may have missed it, Peter. Where was that option to set the random
thank you.
random shuffling thing?
So if we come here, yeah, that's great. So under here, you go to the gallery level. So again, how do you get up? You look, so the images are in a gallery. You can go to the list view. You can also go, and a lot of folks don't realize this. When to the left of your main menu, you can go the next block up. So right now we're at the gallery level. And then in the gallery, there's right here, the randomize order. It's just a simple toggle. Let's go view that. And now here's these. Let me grab this page and I'll load it again and we'll compare them. Actually, did it load the site? No, it didn't.
You know what this is? Oh, something moved. Yeah,
there's only 4 images, right? So,
they're all Alex and
yeah. Oh, now that picked the same. Isn't that hilarious?
Yeah.
Wonder if it's a seating. There we go. That's very different. But again, I would use this. This is something that I like because I want the images to show up differently. Now, if you set up a gallery where you have tall images in a tall image area and wide images in a wide area, you might not want to do this type of thing. But that's a great little addition. I think that's most of what I wanted to cover.
All right, and we can jump back to stuff too. I'm sure as I cover things, you'll see stuff that I'm showing that you want to jump into, Peter.
I will hand it to you now.
All right, let me grab the screen. So definitely, like you said, I think the nice thing is it just keeps getting better and better. The list view in particular, I mean, that was the piece that going back a couple of releases ago, I can't live without it now. And I think it keeps getting better and better. So to me, I'm always excited to see new stuff happening in the list view. So I'm going to cover some of the let's call it site editor improvements and also some of the, I hate to say the word, sort of back end stuff, including some things like I said, I think that are setting the stage for perhaps future versions of WordPress, including some that hopefully are going to be in the not too distant future. So from a site editor standpoint, probably the one I know a couple of people mentioned they have interest in is around the font library. So, just to kind of step back a little bit of what problem is this trying to solve? Well, for most people, again, especially if you're not technical, if you're using a theme, your theme in general is providing a set of fonts that you can use in your site. And well, what if you don't like those fonts? What if you want some additional ones, or a special use case where you need a specific font? In the past, what you'd really have to do is either you'd have to know enough coding or use different ways to create a child theme, and then you'd be able to reference your own fonts that way. Or there's plugins that do it too, some better than others. But you need some additional thing on top of your theme in order to pull in other fonts. Well, now with this font library, this really gives you the ability to install, remove, and activate local and Google fonts. So again, there's more than Google fonts out there. Adobe has some pricey fonts too. If you're so inclined, I had to use one on a project once, and I was shocked at the price. But anyway, so anyway, the font library, I'll show this in the demo in a second. It appears under styles in the site editor. And as I said, it gives you that ability there's a couple options there, which I'll show you in the demo of how you can add fonts. So again, and by default, the nice thing is it separates them too. So you can tell which ones you've added, or let's say you come onto a site, you're maintaining a site in the future, you'll have the ability to distinguish between ones that somebody else added versus the ones that came with the theme. And the first time, I don't think this will show for me because I've been using this demo site for the past couple of weeks or so. But the first time you try to connect it to Google, there's a warning message just saying, hey, do you give permission to connect your site directly to Google servers? And currently, and this is where maybe Anne later can jump in on this, but I saw some discussion around this too, that currently the fonts that you install locally, they're stored underneath this WP content/fonts directory, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I don't know if that's gonna be the permanent home of it, or at least for 6.5, I think that's, at least that's where they're gonna go. So let's do a quick demo on this again. And if there's questions, Peter will be watching the
Yep.
chat. So let me go back to, again, as I said, so I have, for a couple of my pieces too, and we could do this for anything. I have this one demo site, which I've used and abused over and over again. This one has 6.5. So when you load 6.5, you'll see something like this, the welcome screen. And then I have my other demo site for 6.4, so we can compare some things. So let's talk about fonts. And Peter talks, so Peter, you have a slide later talking about classic themes versus block themes, right? So I won't go into too much detail on that. So just for, again, so everyone knows what we're working with here, this site, again, I'm running the 6.5 beta and all that, but the active theme right now is the 2024 theme, so which is a block theme or full site editor enabled theme. So let's look at generally your fonts in the 2024 theme. What you would see in terms of what's available would be under styles. So underneath styles, under typography, this would normally show just those fonts that were available to me that were installed. If I did a fresh install of 2024, that would show those fonts that came with that theme. But the new feature, the font library, the way you start to use it is by clicking on the fonts, manage fonts thing. And this is the new interface that comes up. So sorry, my Zoom window is sometimes blocking the screen, sometimes not blocking the screen. So there we go, I'm back. So the options that you have here is, first off, as I said, the first thing you get to see is which fonts came with the theme. So 2024 really just comes with these 4 fonts in different variations. And here's the ones I installed as I was doing the demo, and I can install another one shortly. So where did these installed fonts come from? They can come from 2 different places. You can upload them directly. So where would you get a font? Again, you can get them directly from Google Fonts. So if there's, let's say you've built a font library, or Adobe, as I said, there's other places too. If you're artistic, you're creating your own fonts, I suppose. But from Google, let's say you're looking for something specific. I kind of like the Google search interface. So let's say I want to see, handwriting fonts, et cetera, et cetera. So if I wanted to download this font, again, there's another way to connect to Google Fonts, but just to show you this example, if I wanted this font, when you click on it in Google and you click Get Font, it's going to download a zip file. And what's in that zip file is a collection of font files. And I don't know if all the Google ones, I forget if they're all in the same format or not, but they basically, each individual font file is in a format, which is, I think they're TFFs. I could be wrong. So when you're uploading them, so that process I just showed you, download the zip file to your computer, you unzip it, and then you would drag or click upload here, and you just grab them from your computer. So you'd have to grab the individual files. You can multi-select and do all that. That's one way to pull them in. And again, you probably would do this, probably not for Google Fonts, because there's a better way to do that. But if you're using, let's say, another font package. The other way to get it directly from Google Fonts is this integration, which is really nice. As I said, when you first click on this, you're going to have that message that says, do you give permission to connect your site to Google? Again, I assume you're okay with that. And you click yes. And then this is what appears. So it's very similar to what I just showed up here in terms of searching directly through the Google Fonts interface. So I happen to know, again, having worked, as I'm sure many of you have, with fonts over the years. I know we use Roboto. There's Roboto. So let's say Roboto Condensed, Roboto Flex. So if I want to add one of these, let's say Roboto Mono for some reason, maybe I want to display code on my site someplace. What you can do at this point is you would select which fonts you want. And I wish there was a select all button, but maybe that's coming 6.6. But for now, what you'd have to do is, let's say I want the Roboto 500 normal. And again, for people who don't know, the numbers, I think, are really defining the boldness of the font. So that as the number goes up, it's saying more bold or more light. So this is, 500. Let's say I'm going to pick an italic of 500, etc. And again, I have to move my stupid Zoom window. Sorry, I wish I had a place to put this. There we go. And then there's the install button. So let me install these 2. So it takes a second. And now when I go to my library, those two Roboto Monos will be here. So as you can see, I can see which fonts I've installed. I have Roboto Mono, and there they are. They're turned on. So there is, I guess, the good point going back to, yes, it forced me to select the individual ones, but I guess the plus of that is I'm not unnecessarily pulling in fonts that I'm not using. So I could see the argument to that to say, you're sort of forcing the person to say, hey, you're adding something additional, select which ones in particular you want. You could always go back if you missed one or something. You could always go back and install the additional font. So once I'm done here, I'll hit update and just approve that we now have Roboto Mono as an option. Oops, sorry. There we go. And then I'm just going to save just to make sure my custom styles, my typography, etc. has changed. This will allow me, tell you what, I'm going to stay on this page for a second because I'm going to show another, actually no, I'm going to go back to that page afterwards. So let me just finish with the fonts to show how would I use this new font. So I'm going to go back to, let's say, I'm going to add a new post. It's a test over here or something. Oops, I can type test 2. And then now when I'm typing in a paragraph, you can see from a typography standpoint, if I go back to my typography options, I want to see font family. So in the drop down now, I have Roboto Mono. So here is Mono. There we go. So it's now saved, and I'll save it as a draft. The last piece of this that I'll show us, and I'll see if there's any questions in the chat, is so where did that font go to? Is it, it get uploaded to my site? Well, it actually did get uploaded. So let's, again, generally don't use the WP File Manager plugin for security reasons, but just to show this. So underneath my WP content fonts directory, I'll just sort it by today. What's today? There we go. So there are the Roboto Mono fonts. And here's the ones that I uploaded. Remember, I said I zipped them. So it's kind of funny. I guess the ones that got pulled in are the WOOF2 format versus the ones that I uploaded are actually in TTF format. So that's fonts library. Did any questions pop up, Peter, in the chat regarding this?
There was Ann has helped us out. There was a question Sue had in terms of file types, which are TTF, OTF, WOFF, and WOFF2. So the file types that you can upload. And then Ann also made the comment, select all is on the list.
Good.
The fonts here. So there you go.
Yeah. And just again, from a context standpoint, I know we're talking, obviously we're showing the new features of 6.5. For some people who are maybe using a theme that already has Google Fonts, so for example, like Peter and I use Cadence for a lot of our examples, I believe that may have almost the full Google Fonts library already loaded. You may be looking at this saying, so what? I already have access to all those things. But again, especially, I think this is a nice way to only pull in kind of what you need. So again, the less references, resources you have, really from a website performance standpoint, kind of the better off things are. And especially when you want something outside of the norm, outside of Google Fonts. In the past, as I mentioned, it was a bit of a pain to do.
And the other thing on that, Ray, real quick, is that depending on your theme, depending on how fonts are loaded, many still are calling Google Fonts from Google each time you load the site versus something locally. So the whole GDPR, not talking to Google is important.
Yes.
There are ways, like Cadence has a way of loading things locally, and also
very good point.
That's a big part.
Yep. All right, now let's talk. So data views, and this is another interesting one. I guess I didn't even know this term was really for what we're going to show, but this is in the site editor. This is the ability to view pages, patterns, and templates in different types of views. So a grid view versus a table layout, and I'll show what it looked like. This one's a little bit more apparent when I show you what it looked like in 6.4. So it's allowing filtering, sorting, and searching. So really, again, back from a usability, user experience standpoint, making it easier to find things in the site editor. And again, this is my opinion. I can feel free to knock this down, but I'm assuming this is a little bit of a sneak preview of we talked about this. I think our group talked about this last month a bit about. It seems like there's eventually going to be an overhaul of the WordPress backend, the admin backend. I see like these improvements happening in the site editor. It makes sense. So it's nice to see these little features being added in before that may or may not completely happen. So so that's data views. And then this one I'll show together before I do the demo. And then style revision tracking. So we'll look at this actually at the example that I just did. So, previously when you revise the style, you only really got to see when you looked at the revision tracking for the change that you made, you really only saw like the date, time, author, some bare bones information about what the revision was. So a little bit hard to tell, what changed. Well, now you get a lot more detailed description, including, what elements of the style had changed. The real cool thing I'll show is when you click on those revisions, it'll show you what that looked like. So it's kind of taking snapshots. I have a MacBook, and if you ever use like Time Machine, that's one of my favorite features. You can kind of go back and see what things looked like in the past. So it's kind of a time machine-y feeling thing. And if you want to go back to a previous revision, you just click apply to it. And this other neat thing, which I didn't even realize there was this limit before, but apparently the old limit used to be only 100 revisions you could go back to. But now it seems like you can go beyond that. So pagination is supported for that too. So that's style revisions. And again, okay, now I'll jump to a demo real quick. So I'm going to show, as I said, data views and style revisions. So let me go back to this guy. Let's look at style revisions first, because that's one that I just did a second ago. So if I go back to editor, and as I said, remember we just changed, but I'll make another change too. So I go to styles. This is again the 2024 theme, and I'm going to go edit my styles. And right now I'm using this color combination of this one is Ember, I guess. That's what I'm using right now. Let's say I want to switch this to mint for some reason. There we go, the mint style. And when I save this now, I first want to apply it. Even when you save to, I think this has been there previously, it tells you here's all the elements that are going to change as part of this global style. So the revisions piece that we're talking about is if you look at the little clock, the backwards clock, I click on revisions, and now it'll show, so, what changed. So a second ago, this is what I just changed, typography, et cetera, et cetera. But if I go back to what did it look like previously, the nice thing is not only does it tell me what changed, but it actually shows me at this time. So here's what this style looked like here. So 8 hours ago, what did it look like? March 17th. I think I've been playing with this for a while. So, back 2 days ago when I was just working on my demo, this was what the style was, and here's what changed. Now, if I want to revert back to this, the cool thing is just click apply, and there, it's instantly back. So really nice. Again, I like both a visual way to see it and also just the more granular, I think more granular detail as opposed to before. And just let me show you real quick what that looked like previously. So, so this is 6.4. If I go to the editor, this is also using the 2024 theme. I'm gonna go to styles, edit. And it's probably not apparent here, but as I flip back and forth between 6.4 and 6.5, at least to me, it's a lot snappier. Again, so kudos to just the site editor experience feels a lot faster. So here are the revisions that I had in 6.4. This is what they looked like before. So it'd be revision history. And as you can see, it was really bare bones. It was saying it was changed by me at this time. So you get a lot more information now, a lot more details. Again, I know hopefully long-term revisions for other things like posts and pages would be a nice to see, something improved or something at least getting a little bit more modern than kind of what we see today. But again, I think this is hopefully laying the framework for that. So that's style revisions. Let me just show you data view again before I take, if there's any questions in the chat. So the data view is, again, this is really back to, oops, I need to be on 6.5. This is underneath the site editor, excuse me. So let's say I'm looking at, I'll look at pages for now. So if I want to manage all my pages, this is the new view. So really what I can do is right now I'm seeing things in a list view, right? So I'm just seeing all the title, author, status, etc. But what the new features for 6.5 is I can change that layout to instead be a grid view. So I can see, I think all of mine are just kind of junky pages with nothing there to see. But normally I'd be able to see more information about each page. I can also change the sorting, so if I don't want it sorted by, I can sort by title, author, etc. So the items per page can be increased 50 to 100. So to me, this feels like this is eventually, I think, going to become or could become a foundation for replacing, what we see in kind of our legacy view. And for people who don't know what I mean, like this is kind of a legacy view of pages and posts, the old editor. So perhaps this is the beginning of changes there. As I said, the other thing you do is you can add filters in here. So let's say I just want to see everything that's in draft status. Yeah, I got a couple in here. So again, it's a neat visual way to bounce around different things. You can do bulk edit from here. You can search. So let's say I just want to find ones that say privacy, et cetera, et cetera. So this applies, this data view, like that ability to filter things by grids and tables applies for, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it's pages, templates, and patterns. So let me just show templates, make sure I said that correctly. Yep, so here for templates, here I can change that view from table to grid. So another nice, again, from the more, yeah, this one looks better with the previews. I think so this is a better way, I think, to kind of find something than it is just a list.
I think that the pages isn't ready yet. That's coming.
Okay. That would explain.
Grid view that's going to show you page. But yeah, there's more and more of this where it's actually like you could go in there and that literally highlight the things in there because they're just shrunken down blocks. So
yeah. So again, a neat navigation thing, again, more user experience standpoint, and as people start using more and more block themes, I think these are nice little nice things to have. Peter, any other questions come up for those two in the chat, or should I jump to the next?
No, there was a question about revisions Anne was helping Sue with in terms of setting, and I guess the question is still outstanding in terms of limiting the number of revisions that are going to be in the database. And right now, Sue is doing it through WP config. I'm not sure if there is a parameter or something to set.
And that's for revisions. I think Sue, correct me if I'm wrong. I assume Sue is referring to, like, for example, in my pages and posts.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, this one has like 13 revisions, but let's say I only want to store 10 or something. And again, for people who are new, why would you want to limit that? Well, maybe just from a space saving standpoint, All right, so that's style, revision tracking, and data views. Last things, I know I'm hopefully not doing a disservice to these by lumping them into other, but because there are some really interesting things here. I'll talk a little bit about some of my experience with some of these. So again, preferences panel, Peter showed that already. I think it's better organized, my opinion too, that I think things got moved around a little bit better. And just to show people, again, what did it look like before? I guess I could do it on this one, right? Preferences. So previously there was no accessibility option. And then there were a couple of them that I think kind of didn't make sense. I forgot what it was. Well, like custom fields is in here. So I think now, I guess I should open it then. If I go back into something. Yes, and I have general appearance, accessibility, and blocks. I think things seem to be in better places than before. And did one of them change? Yeah, block. It used to be called panels. Panels is where some of these things now, I believe, have moved into general or under appearance. So yeah, I think it's just kind of consolidating, cleaning things up. Interactivity API, in my opinion, I think this is still something that it's neat to see. It's good to know that it's coming. So it's really a framework for allowing developers, again, it's really more for developers, to create more modern front-end websites, really, that don't require complete page loads. And I know we showed this example site when we talked about the State of the Word recap a couple months ago, just to remind people, like, what does this look like? So there's this demo site, which hopefully someone could throw this into the chat. So this is wpmovies.dev, and this is really highlighting what this interactivity API can look like. So what's the big deal? Well, one nice thing is all this data that's loaded in here. So let me just refresh this again. First off, very quick to load. If I want to jump between pages, you can see practically instantaneous. But also, let's say I want to start searching for something. So let's say, how many movies start with the word once? And I guess it's searching for something. But you can see just from a filtering standpoint, let's start with 10. Okay, 10 is probably a better one. So anything that starts with the number 10, it really is super fast. And if I had looked at the network calls back here, this is all happening, with what's loaded. It's not going back to pull data, at least not noticeable to the user if there is any kind of asynchronous stuff happening. So that one's really neat. I think that's more to come and more to see what people are going to do with that in the future. So that's the Interactivity API. Plugin dependencies. This is one that I couldn't find any examples of this because I assume plugin developers still have to actually implement this. So what this is when you're adding a plugin, now plugin authors can define if their plugin requires additional plugins to be installed and activated for them to work. And it seems like obviously right now it's just limited to plugins that are hosted on WordPress.org. So if you have a plugin from let's say a private plugin developer, then that's obviously not something where it can determine that. But again, for folks who are new, what I'm talking about here is back on WordPress, when you're adding a new plugin, and let's say I want to install, I don't know, I can't think of a good example that has some requirements. But basically, when I'm trying to install a plugin, the plugin developer will have the ability to say, here, they'll be able to say whether or not there is some other requirements. So what else do you need to install before you can activate this one? So why is that a good thing? It's because if it has dependencies, that plugin won't work without those dependencies. So rather than you going through the frustrating part of debugging that, let the plugin developer tell you that. Binding custom fields, I'll skip this for a second because this is the one that didn't seem to work for me, and maybe it's just me, or maybe I need to update the latest release candidate. Performance improvements, I think we talked about this already. This is certainly within the site editor, to me, very noticeable as I was going back and forth between 6.4 and 6.5, just feels snappier. And again, a lot more responsive, at least to me. Sync patterns with overrides, I shed a tear for this feature because if you go back and watch our meetup from last month, we talked all about patterns, and I was the one who was demoing some of the sync pattern stuff. And I said, boy, I can't wait for this one. I can't wait for sync patterns with overrides. Hold that thought, coming in 6.6. Just real quick for folks who don't know what it is, it's basically a synced pattern is a pattern that you create, or let's say that you say, anytime this pattern is used, it's basically the changes are applied. I'm sorry, it's applied globally. So it's just for consistency's sake. That's what a global pattern is. I'm sorry, like a synced pattern. But a sync pattern with overrides is a nice variation in that it allows you to use, or the person who's creating the pattern to say, here, I will allow you to override a couple of pieces in this pattern. So like an image or text. So we kind of demoed that before it got removed. So if you want to see what that looks like, go back to our recording of last month's presentation, because I did demo that a little bit. But hopefully it's this coming in 6.6. And then this last one, the binding custom fields to blocks. Again, it's probably just laying a foundation and a framework for this. So the idea behind this is that you can have data, you can display data in custom fields within your core blocks. So I believe for 6.5, it's limited to just certain places like the buttons, headers, images, paragraphs, etc. The unfortunate thing for most people is there's really no UI component to this. You have to use a code editor. And I'll show you what the example is supposed to look like. But again, maybe it's just me and pilot error here. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I could not for the life of me get this one to work for the demo. So let me show what I think it's supposed to look like. So I believe this is again 6.5, all pages. This is my custom fields binding demo. So just for people who don't know, these again are the kind of general custom fields. This is not advanced custom fields. This is not that plugin. But on WordPress, in order to even see these, the first thing you have to do is you have to make sure that within options, we just looked at options preferences. You have to make sure that custom fields is turned on. So that'll allow you to see and add custom fields to your page or post. So the way this is, I believe this is supposed to work is that, let's say for this image block, I'm sorry, this paragraph, let's say I want to replace this text with something else, with a value from my custom field. And again, the example that seems to make the most sense to me is, let's say that perhaps this is part of maybe a pattern or something where it's a team member. So you have, team members, photos, title, et cetera, et cetera. So you'd want the ability to maybe have somebody enter that data in a custom field. So the way this, I believe, is supposed to work is that you create kind of this key value pair. So you'd say, here's my key is, in this case, I'm just calling image text. Here's my value. And I believe how it's supposed to work in 6.5 is that, again, there's no UI to bind this to this paragraph field. But in order, what you have to do in 6.5 is you have to actually manually put the code in. So the way you put code in is, sorry, I got my window keeps blocking me here again. Good. In the code editor, again, for people who are, I mean, this is basically what WordPress code looks like behind the scenes. I mean, all those blocks we look at are really just their code. So this paragraph is supposed to be bound to my field here. And again, I followed different examples, so I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Maybe it's just my install. I mess around with this so much, but the way I believe this is supposed to work is the content of this paragraph, this HTML paragraph field, is supposed to be replaced by what's in this key. So image text value, and here's my thing, this value should display. I would expect that this sentence here should then display inside of the paragraph. And that's this bindings API that's doing it. And as far as I can tell, it looks like I coded correctly. I grabbed the code properly, but for the life of me, it doesn't work. When I display this, as you'll see in a second, all it displays is image text. So I don't know, it doesn't display anything. But what's interesting though is there is a visual indicator, at least, that as of right now, I don't know, maybe this is going to get cleaned up or something. There is a visual indicator that this field is bound to something. And I'm assuming this kind of looks like a marshmallow, but I assume there's actually two plugs plugged in together that shows that there's some sort of linkage between these two things. So that's one way, at least, to visually tell, I believe, that there is something going on behind the scenes. So I think, again, cool feature. I think ideally for many people to make it practical, you don't want people going into the code editor. I assume this is the first iteration of that. Eventually, you want something more where you can actually select the field and select and assign it to a custom field. So
there was a quick comment, Ray, about Tracy suggested it doesn't show in the editor. You have to view on the front end, and I'm wondering, is this one, did you update it? Did you actually save it too?
Yeah, I did. I tried that too. It doesn't show on the front end either, unfortunately, at least for me. It's just showing blank. So this is it's nothing there.
It's code. You misplaced a semicolon.
I copied other people's code. It was
That's right.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's half working. I don't want to monkey around with it too much, and maybe I just need to update the latest release candidate. So,
and again, a lot of this is to make things easier for developers going forward too, I believe. So
right. So let's we're at 7:26. So standing reminder, and I think Peter, this is getting into
yep, I can take it.
Last piece. Yeah.
So I did ask if anyone does have specific questions about your site, let us know. So make sure to have some time. Oh, I see Gene just asked a question.
Question about buttons, which I think goes to you.
Yeah. Default hover and focus states without having a custom code CSS, and also these states for links. I'll have to look at that. I'm not sure, but I'll tell you what this touches on for me, Gene, and we'll get in. Maybe we'll spend a little bit of time in a minute. Is, man, I think if somebody just could come up with like a style library for the navigation block that can be applied, that would make a lot of people happy. I'm not sure what it would even take to do that, but we're used to being able to say, here's a lot of styling for menu choices and all, and let me just apply it. kind of thing. So let me grab the screen again, and I'll walk through this pretty quickly. This could be its own presentation, and at the same time, it can be something that, you know, just want to make sure people understand what we're talking about when we're in this stage of block themes and classic themes. We say now is kind of a regular slide I'd like to include. Your WordPress experience is defined by your theme, plugins, and custom code. WordPress environments can vary greatly. So what you're seeing isn't necessarily what you're going to experience. Theme authors have a whole lot of control of the experience that you have. I mean, they kind of have all the control, really, to some degree, right? And there are some themes out there that totally change the way WordPress works from top to bottom, quite honestly. I don't even know if you can call them themes as much as WordPress overrides, if you will. But it's important to know that. And so, you know, one of the things to really pay attention to, and there's something we can bring up, but the simple fact is most of us are using classic themes, and I'd be curious to know, we kind of poll people, and maybe we'll do a more formal poll. How many folks here are using classic themes versus using block themes? Because there's going to be a difference here. Block themes are using a site editor, a lot of the things that Ray shows as he's digging into that. Classic themes use the customizer, pretty much is one of the easier ways to tell the difference if you go under appearance and customize, or is it appearance and then edit the theme kind of thing. So those are kind of the quickest way of considering. Examples of classic themes include Cadence, Astra, Generate Press, Ocean WP, Blocksy, etc. Talk about those a lot. Block themes 2024, default theme. Other block themes that I like, one's called Variants, Powder by Brian Gardner, Ollie by Mike McAllister, Spectre One, which is by the same people who make Astra. And again, yeah, theme authors control what specifics are enabled in their themes, and the different environments simply allow, if you're using the PHP classic theme environment and not use the block theme environment, there's certain things that just won't even work, at least at this point. And there is another theme type that is not. I don't know how many are out there. I know Astra was trying to. I don't know if they're fully there. I have to test it. Which is considered a hybrid theme, which is a theme that introduces kind of both aspects of the classic and the block theme. And why this is important are things like this. And I can show some specific things in terms of, hey, I showed you something on image block. Let's look at it in a classic theme. The problem is there's so many variables. I couldn't say this is definitive what you're going to see in your classic theme, because your theme might have a whole different feature. One of the things here, and it's funny if Anne's still listening, that because I've sent the note a couple of times in terms of looking even at the welcome screen and saying, okay, we're getting this welcome screen. I'm going to update it, and then I'm going to see these things and which ones of these things are going to apply to my theme. And I'm saying some things, and even I'm not 100% sure things are definitive. They are, as far as I've been able to research, or at the very least, incredibly dependent on what a theme author is or isn't embracing on things like that. So, the font library right now is a block theme only feature. Can it be incorporated, embedded, used in a classic theme, or does that become a hybrid theme? I think we're yet to see on that. The style revisions that Ray was showing, again, only so far in block themes, other than, boy, we're looking forward to that coming to posts and pages. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to come to posts and pages, but not into classic themes. That's a yet to be seen thing. So that we may be locked into that if we're in a classic theme. And again, at some point it might be, hey, we're going to change themes because it's time to get these features that are in core. But we're kind of in this, you can't really call it limbo, but you can call it transitionary way. So, paying attention to those things. The background, all of these things pretty much are, if the theme author allows it or doesn't disallow it. So I'm not sure in which cases things are absolutely automatic, but in quick testing, the background images and group blocks, yeah, that worked. Having a certain level of control, but one thing that I wasn't seeing was the box shadow in some of the things. And again, you'd have to try it in your theme and see, and we can practice in a couple of things if we don't have any other specific questions by folks joining us tonight. The discover the new data views again, if supported. All of these topics are kind of the smoother drag and drop. I'm certainly seeing that is core. That seem unless you're jumping into something like a bricks, which might change the entire way you work with WordPress. I would. This seems to be something that we're going to see. The link control, the way certain blocks work, definitely. But again, just noticing also in the welcome screen, I'm just kind of putting these in the developer toolbox, which is all the things that are going to say, hey, WordPress is really building a great foundation, but some of the things as an end user, if you're a DIYer is building your own site, you might not necessarily see things. One thing you will see that I was very happy to see, and again, I showed that earlier, the under add appearance tools to classic themes. So some of the things that are showing up under appearance and like the managing the patterns being something that's available in that menu versus having to use a code snippet or something to put that in is certainly welcome. And then definitely the performance updates and the things in the back end in terms of accessibility and all. So it's just a matter of, really knowing that we're not all looking at the same thing. And the main reason I always want to remind us that is that at the very least, don't go somewhere and go, oh my God, it's not working or I'm confused. Certainly look into it. But in the Douglas Adams Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, symbol, don't panic. There's a lot of variables in play here. So we could certainly take a look at some things in terms of comparing block theme and a classic theme if people want to see that. But I want to make sure that we would give time for the questions.
Yeah, I don't see any open questions. Anne's been, again, thank you, Anne, for helping answer a bunch of the questions in the chat. I did open everyone's microphones up so you can unmute yourself if you do have questions directly, either about 6.5. Anything we showed today, we're happy to dive deeper into, take advantage of having one of the lead resources on 6.5. So if Peter and I can't cover it, right, I think we'll punt to that over to Anne, but also anything else related to your sites. There's a little discussion about just Elementor, is it better to learn Elementor or Gutenberg for beginners? And I think all of us on the chat at least said, between the price advantage of, doing a site with straight Gutenberg, it's also, I think, just page builders can be overwhelming with what they offer, because they do offer you lots and lots of control of everything, which can be overkill for some sites. So yeah. I do think that as we talk about these improvements happening to Gutenberg, I mean, that's always been an interesting balance. Peter and I have had that discussion offline on these too, of like, is this ever going to turn into all of those bells and whistles that you get with like, Divi, Elementor, things like that? Hopefully not, but I do think that the core design styling options are now getting built into the block editor. So I think that's a great thing. So it should do, I think, what most people need it to do out of the box.
Yeah. Yeah, the Elementor question is a good one, because a lot of times when folks kind of start a WordPress site and they hop on a tutorial on YouTube and it says how to build a site step by step by step, you have to, even right from there, and I know this is hard when you're first starting, but you'd be like, okay, you're following this one person who's telling you something, and the first thing they say is load WordPress, then load Elementor, and then they start teaching you from there. Well, that's picking a path. That's picking I'm an Elementor person now, and a lot of what you're going to be doing is completely different. The block editor has become such a great page and post building tool, in my opinion, that when I go back to, I use Beaver Builder. I've mentioned this for those who, I go back to those sites, I find those far harder to use. I'm going for here's the thing, and here's the thing that does the thing, instead of drilling into so many options. I don't hear all your animation choices, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want any of those things. I also see sites that had Elementor loaded, full blown, and they're doing it for some of the simplest thing that's just built into core because I don't know, they wanted to put an image on the left and the right or something like that. And they're not using it, but they were told, oh, you got to use Elementor to do that.
And I also think too, and I'm guilty of this when I first started building sites, especially for myself too. It's like sometimes when you get all these options, it's like your kid in the candy store. You want to turn all the knobs or whatever. It's like, oh, do I want a swoosh animation for every one of my images? Sure, because that looks neat. Or the flip book animation. Then you look at these sites later. It's like, oh, it looks like a MySpace page from the whatever the early 2000s. So yeah, sometimes restraint is a nice thing.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, until questions come up, I'll just show a few things. What do you think
Yeah,
in terms
yeah, go
of
ahead. And again, everyone's has the ability. If you have questions, you feel free to take yourself off mute. Again, if people have other things to do, want to drop off, go for it. Yeah, well, we definitely hang around till
yeah.
the top of the hour, and yeah,
So
anything and everything. So dive deeper.
what I'm doing here is I've got a block theme site, and I can swap it to another theme. Right now it's 2024 and a classic theme site. I think Cadence is on it right now. I can swap it to anything else to see what's different in there. But I was just thinking, we go through and take a look at, okay, so here's the heading block.
Mhm.
And when you're looking at the heading block options, um, and here's the thing, if you're new to it, knowing that now there's so many options that there are things that might be hidden under the plus sign. So padding and margin under dimensions. And so that is pretty much for the heading block under the um, block theme. Under a classic theme, heading margin. So if we compare, they're pretty, in this particular case, and I'll show you where they're very different. They're pretty much the same. Now, also, a tool like Cadence has a block package where they have their own heading block. So maybe they're not, kind of worrying about this. But let's look at another block. Let's look at um, the image block. I'll look at the image block here and the image block here. So on an image block in a block theme, we have the aspect ratio, what sizes to grab, and then under style, you've got the drop shadow. Now that you can add by turning on or off under. Do I have these backwards? Wait a minute. Let me make sure. Yeah, that's Cadence. I have a little piece of code that I chat GPT'd to tell me at the top what because I'm swapping from theme to theme in these test sites. So here we have the same. What I think we don't have. I don't think we have drop shadow as simple as, let me close this. As simple as it is under border and shadow on the Cadence theme. There is now. That might be new. I just updated Cadence. That wasn't there this morning, so that's good. This is how the discovery works. So under, we'll do list real quick, kind of go through them. And under list, under dimensions, we have padding and margin on a block theme. And on the list, we have padding and margin. Okay.
Hey, Peter, I think we're gonna have a question coming up in a second.
Yeah,
So
please. Let me make sure. Yeah.
Hi. So getting back to when you're trying to learn and what
Yeah.
you might see isn't there because of the theme, would you recommend like sticking then like with one of the WordPress themes like the 2024? Like what's the best way to standardize so you do see when you're reading tutorials?
You're reading tutorials from WordPress, it's pretty much always going to be the default theme that comes with the latest version. So in this case, 2024. That's a great place to learn. And what we're always encouraging is when you learn the basics from there, then you can break off. But it's much easier to learn starting from at the core level, and then you can say, oh, I need something a little bit different, a little bit more advanced. But it's pretty safe if you go back through the videos that are provided by learn.wordpress.org and that are on the the WordPress channel on YouTube, which now they're posting the videos there as they also post under WordPress TV. The latest videos are using the latest default theme.
Okay, so like the interface, everything should match up to follow along.
Okay. If you're dealing with the WordPress things like how to learn, if you just go to YouTube and just do a search, it's the wild wild west, quite honestly. So I would if you have the benefit of being a new learner, or you want to say I really want to pay attention to what the future of WordPress is, then starting with a block theme, a default theme, and then following the tutorials and all of that. Anne and Laura, who has joined us a few times, and the whole learn.wordpress.org folks, the stuff that they put together, it's using default themes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I got nothing to add. I agree.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take that one over.
No, I agree.
I'm trying to find one that was. There's a couple that are very different. Like
didn't you say something about was it shadows or something that was? You said the Cadence wasn't providing that for one of the core.
Yeah, it wasn't. But I'll tell you what, it wasn't this morning, and I just went to an image. So here's an image block. That's the Hartford skyline for anybody who doesn't know Hartford. It's not a big skyline. We're not a big city. We don't have a big city. Insurance capital of the world. But now under borders and shadows here, so I'm under, it's a core image block. I go to the styles. I go to, and shadow is there. That is brand new as of a couple of hours ago. Because I just updated. I believe it's a couple hours because I can show you this
update. Yeah.
That didn't have it.
Are you using 6.5 for that?
This is so this is
because that's probably not related to the theme. I'm imagining that's just core, like that shadow.
Yeah, no, it is.
But okay.
That's kind of the point. There are things that are coming out of core that in classic themes aren't there, even though it's core. I wish let's see if I have. Let me pull this up because I was taking a bunch of screenshots and it got to be like too confusing, and some of them were, I know.
I'm kind of curious. Part of what's coming in 6.5 is the option for classic themes to add appearance tools, support for appearance tools to kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious to see if classic theme authors adopt that, how they do, if they run into any issues, all that sort of stuff. Because that is exactly what you're describing has come up before. Like you've been a good advocate there for is this only coming to block themes? What benefit to classic themes? And that's a huge unlocking a lot of design tools.
Can I ask and since you're here, can I ask you a question of like this more of a behind the scenes how the sausage is made kind of question?
Yeah.
Do you either for this release or previous releases, how much involvement do you get from let's say representatives of some of the big classic themes like the page builder themes? Do they provide much input into the direction of this, like other people for Elementor, Cadence, those kind of things, or just are they two separate worlds right now? I'm just curious what your experience has been.
We don't want it to be like, I will, depending upon the issue, I will reach out to folks and there's a group of us that will reach out and try to bug them and say, hey, this is impacting you, this could impact you, what do you think? Get involved. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I will tell you, like, as in full transparency, I work for Automatic, so we have a number of classic themes as well. So like we can kind of honestly have done a lot of testing on those classic themes to try and understand what other themes might run into. But I would love to see more engagement there, and we are trying to do more outreach there as well. There is like a new outreach handle in GitHub, which when you're in a GitHub issue and you want to get people's like a broad perspective, people can sign up to be a part of this outreach handle and then be tagged in issues that we need broader feedback. And that could be everything from enterprise level to a theme author to an agency, to just like an end user. So yeah, it is something we do get feedback from folks. We do often run into issues where it's like, oh, we should check with these themes, or honestly, the developers will test with common themes and big themes to see if things break. Carolina over at Yoast is very good about that.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. I mean, part of it too is, like I said, some of these themes have done great jobs of solving a problem. So it's like, why reinvent the wheel? And again, without like, taking their code or them creating this separate silo, it'd be great to incorporate some of those ideas into design going forward. So that's good to hear. At least there's some communication.
Yeah, and there's also like obviously the default themes. Like there's a huge number of sites that use the default themes. So that's also where things come up and we have conversation.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting that I I refresh my browser just to think and wonder if it was something in the browser, or things are literally changing as we speak. Because what I'm doing. So right now I'm looking at let me look at the cover block and dimensions. I know a big one was where the typography came in. So under a paragraph.
Yeah, speaking of browser, what I should have showed.
So maybe I'm not seeing it. Why aren't I not seeing? Aren't there typography settings under paragraph? Oh, right here. Sorry. It's another thing everyone's got to get used to, and I'm doing it, and I got to get used to the fact that you gotta open them all up. Wink, 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 if you really want to see what you can do. And let's see if the paragraph in a classic theme. I go under typography. Let's see. Yeah. I don't know if they're all there. Looks like it. Now, if you'll indulge me, and if there's no questions, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come over here.
Well, while you're doing that, Peter, I don't know if we put this in the resources link or not, but this is just for folks too. I should have mentioned this earlier. And this is just a page talking about the WordPress 6.5 release, but in that link that I just put in the chat, one really neat thing is for people who want to try out some of what we did tonight, if you want to just start practicing a little bit, but you don't necessarily want to install a beta plugin and all that, I think one of the great great new things within, I don't know, the past several months or so is that WordPress Playground instance. So if you look in that link, there's a direct link to trying out a 6.5 release candidate 3 WordPress Playground. So that literally just loads it in a browser tab for you. So there's no commitment to setting up a new hosting or doing installs or anything. So that's a great way to.
Showing it right now, playground.wordpress.
Yeah, yep.
It brings up, this is immediately an active site. Once you close your browser, it's gone. There are ways to do things, but just in terms of testing, I do this all the time. The first thing would be coming up here and saying, okay, make this WordPress 6.5 release candidate 3, and then apply those changes. Then the other thing is, if you want to test themes and plugins to see how they work, you have to you go up to that same and then allow network access, apply changes, and then from there you can go to the dashboard and it works. You're in a setting of WordPress. It is running in the browser, and now you can go add themes. This is the whole interface, and this is like in the future, like how do we get people to things, and why are they seeing what they see and all that kind of stuff. It's a fascinating world of what happens when you go to popular block themes and so on. But if I was looking at variations, which I like, I can load that, install it. I'm still just in this browser version.
So to me, this is like the lowest commitment way to get involved in some like
absolutely
testing. You don't need to worry about anything else.
It's a throwaway website. Although what's nice is I'm not sure you can do this before. You can open up other windows while your browser is open. I'm not sure if you could do that before, but this is an example of a block theme that comes with a lot of things built into it. That this whole thing is defined by the theme. I was looking over here under this. This is the Bloxy theme now running in classic themes, and let me see. That's there. Dimensions was always something that was questionable, but now it looks like it's there. So I'm going to have to go back over this. I swear this is over the last couple of days, and I wonder if, as it gets closer to a release candidate, the theme authors are going in there and going,
yeah,
okay, now we can turn that on or turn that off, or they get feedback from, so that's good news. That's great news.
Yeah.
Because the closer we are, especially when you're talking about the core blocks, I want the core blocks to work the same way wherever I use a core block theme or classic theme.
Hey, I have a question. Sorry,
yeah.
You went in quick. So you go to Playground and then
Yeah.
you pick the theme, or Ray, were you in the theme picker first and then you went to Playground?
So you start here. I'll start again because it's just
Okay.
that fast. So I'm gonna go to playground.wordpress.net. That's the URL, and I immediately have a website going. But you have up here on the top right, this is where you kind of set the environment. So if you just wanted to use WordPress 6.4, or if you're testing 6.5, you click here and you say, okay, I want WordPress 6.5, and also I'm going to test maybe a theme or a plugin. To do that, you allow network access. When you apply the changes, it reloads that site. By the way, if you've done something and you go through and do it, you'll lose it, because it's basically saying, okay, here's the new site that you've requested. And then from there, we go into the dashboard, just like any site that you're used to. And now you can go under appearance themes.
But by default, it comes with 2024.
Oh, yeah, it's going to come with. So, right.
Yeah.
So before I do anything, and I go to the front end, I'm looking at the 2024 default theme and startup.
Yeah. That's a super quick way just to play around with anything or test something out really quickly.
Somebody said,
close that browser tab, it's gone.
I heard about Ollie, install it, activate it. And now the Ollie, actually, if I reload it, I think he's got some stuff that comes, well, this is the base of Ollie. And then Ollie has a different way of going in. In fact, there's a plugin for Ollie to go in there and do some, kind of starter sites and things like that. But this footer, this header are the default of the theme author there. So this is all in Playground. And plugins, if you wanted to load, I don't know, that admin and site enhancements, because you want to just test it, but you don't want to, add new plugin. Add new plugin, admin and site enhancements, you can see it, go there. And maybe you just want to experiment. You don't want to have it anywhere near your site. You can do this in Playground. I'm going to activate it. It is active. Tool. It's actually pretty snappy too, by the way.
Yeah.
And then I will go to, it's under tools, and then is it under tools? Did I was just looking for to configure it. I think it just didn't reload the menu. It's under tools enhancements. And then from there, you can go in and start seeing all the things that you can turn on or off. You can say, oh, I want to turn on content duplication because I want to duplicate pages or posts without adding a plugin to duplicate pages or posts. And on down, you go each one of these, it tells you what you can or can't do. And it's just literally, I want to safely upload SVG files. Maybe your logo is in SVG, which is a vector format, scalable file type. And on down the line. But you say, I just want to see what options are there before I load this plugin on my site. Another great way to try something before loading it on your site and trying it on something that you're working on. So,
well,
great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't see any other questions, so maybe just to kind of wrap things up. Again, for folks, as I said, if you go to our Hartford WP site, you'll see all the slides from tonight. That's where also at the very end, I think we have a resources page too. Can you bring that up real quick, Peter? I think it was our last slide in there. Just a couple final links.
You got it.
Yeah, there we go. So again, a couple things worth looking at. As I said, try out the playground for people who want to just play around a little bit and get familiar with 6.5 before it gets released very shortly. And again, thanks everyone for joining us today. As I said, I'll send out the recording probably sometime tomorrow. Thanks again, Anne, for participating, helping out, answering questions. It's great having you here. And again, thanks so much too, as I said, honestly, for that source of truth document. It was, I know it's very dense, but it's great. I love it.
It's one of the longest ones I've ever written, for what it's worth. This was a pretty jam-packed, I think it was like 33 pages in Google Docs or something nuts. So
it's awesome. And I use Control F a lot.
Yes, I do too. I do too. Yeah, I really appreciate that you all are using it and appreciate what you all do. Like everyone on this call is very lucky to have you all as a resource to synthesize this stuff. So you all did a great job and know that it's appreciated.
Stay a member, and the next time you see something that's interesting, feel free to join us anytime.
Yeah.
Wherever you are and all, and even if you want to remain totally passive.
I know we won't drag you in front of the microphone.
No, it's always good. It's part of the job. I love it.
Well, thanks everyone again for joining, and we hope you come back. And definitely beginners, let us know. Like I said, as you start playing around with WordPress, come back here. We're always happy to help out. And as you're learning too, like I said, feel free to suggest topics to us. We love to dive back into things. So again, hopefully to see everyone again next time, and everyone have a good night. Take care.
Good night all.